So let's say that you are a recruiter. Let's say that you are only able to recruit 3 new hires to onboard for a position. Your counterpart recruited 7 for the exact same type of position at another location. You have invested time, energy, and effort into your facility managers to take ownership of their roles as leaders and always invest in your new hires. Your counterpart tends to incentivize with rewards. So let's say after 3 months, your new hires are all working productively, happily, and even taking advantage of the trainings that you've been promoting. Your counterpart has been able to retain only 2 of his original 7. That's transformational leadership versus, say, transactional leadership. In what other ways may we see the transformational theory applied to real-life situations? Situations where, say, mentorship proves to be more effective than instant gratification and lack of a long-term investment. Hi, my name is Stephanie Davenport, and today I will be presenting on transformational leadership theory. So, numerous textbooks analyze different theories and applications of leadership within organizations. The application of the transformational leadership theory will be examined in regards to the nonprofit sector and board leadership. Board member qualities and characteristics are a part of the in-depth research conducted on leadership in nonprofit organizations and the balancing act between leadership theory application and the execution of scientific management. Information from scholarly articles and from top researchers of leadership theories and practices will provide further insight into the different ways in which leadership as both an art and a science is applied in the nonprofit sector. Possible implications of such research include deeper understanding of the dichotomy of leadership and management, increased awareness of leadership practices in fulfilling the mission of nonprofit organizations, and perhaps restructuring the ways the nonprofit sector fulfills demands of the communities in which they serve. Okay, so before we get started on transformational leadership in the nonprofit sector and all of the research that has gone into it, I wanted to give some information on your narrator and why this topic is important, where the perspective is coming from. I'm currently a human resources manager with the U.S. Department of Defense, stationed currently at the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base here in Fort Worth, Texas. Also currently serving my second term as an elected official with the Haltom City Council here in Texas. Currently serving a constituency of just about 45,000 citizens. And I'm the former executive board president for Proyecto Emigrante Immigration Counseling Services, serving Fort Worth, Dallas, and Waxahachie. Proyecto Emigrante translating to Immigrant Project, advocating for our community's immigrants. And all of this to not be showy or pretentious in title, I promise, because these roles have been anything but glamorous or showy. They've been very difficult ones, very life-changing, very life-defining roles that I have stepped into. And it's been quite a journey to be in environments that are so heavily male-dominated. And being only 28 years old, it's been difficult to find mentors in these realms. And really learn, because really truly learning involves trust. And those are things that I think a lot of people would agree are missing from government and politics and public administration as a whole. So I want to share with you guys, a mentor of mine once told me that I was oozing with passion for my community, but that all of my passion was being wasted if I didn't have the skills needed to make any real change. He taught me the importance of understanding the community I was serving, to know how to mobilize my resources, strategically fundraise, how to build coalitions effectively, and the power of negotiation. He said that without those skills, my passion would be wasted, and that it was the responsibility of his generation, or the setting suns, as he would say, to teach my generation, the rising stars, these things, lest our passion get lost online somewhere and not in the streets where real change has historically occurred. This idea that in order to fulfill a mission within any grassroots effort, individuals must understand intangible passion and see it in terms of scholarly leadership theory hinges on the hope that old generations are teaching scientific management to the newer generations. it's enlightening and it's crucial for our future. It is this reason why the study of behavioral leadership is relevant and gaining popularity. It's the leaders who have the ability to motivate, inspire, lead into the future, call to action, and serve with heart, passion, and scientific knowledge of leadership that have the ultimate effect of the delivery of services and mission fulfillment. Leadership in a nonprofit organization is important for quality service delivery, continued dedication to the mission, and overall sustainability of the organization. A leader in a nonprofit organization may be defined as any actor playing an active role in support of the mission. It can be the founder, the executive board, donors, staff, volunteers. However, it is the executive board of directors and their application of particularly the transformational leadership theory that will be discussed and analyzed throughout this discussion. Moving into board member qualities and leadership, board members, including the executive director, will be discussed in an analysis of transformational leadership theory and scientific management in nonprofit organizations. In the book Understanding Nonprofit Organizations, written by J. Stephen Ott and Lisa Dickey, the authors dedicate an entire chapter to the responsibilities of the executive director and discuss the competencies required. The authors also analyze the in-depth process of board recruitment and the qualities and traits to look for when bringing in new board members to an organization. Stephen Ott and Lisa Dickey state that determining the composition of board members can be considered both an art and a science using purposeful recruitment strategies. Board members are prescribed the task of balancing both the art and the science of leadership in order to achieve optimum effectiveness in service provision and efficiency in utilization of resources. This discussion is beneficial for those who participate in fulfilling the mission of any nonprofit so they may better fulfill the mission of the organization after becoming aware of textual theories that may be applied to effect real change. After all, a thriving organization is good theory and practice in action. Behind every smoothly operating nonprofit is a leader-manager which made it that way, as nonprofit organizations are a reflection of the leadership and management in place. It is imperative that the executive director, one of the figureheads of any nonprofit organization, is able to get things done through the work of others by efficiently and effectively motivating and inspiring a group of board members, staff, and/or volunteers to fulfill the same mission. The balance of the art and science is to understand that both servant leadership and scientific management must be applied simultaneously, yet dichotomized, in order to reach optimum efficiency and effectiveness. And we'll be clear, board membership is not permanent. However, board selection is dependent upon a consistent organizational philosophy surrounding one mission, vision, and a promise to a community of stakeholders. According to Peter Nordhaus, it is the process that changes and transforms people. This approach identifies core factors of emotions, values, ethics, standards, and long-term goals, as well as an assessment of followers' motives and satisfying their needs. These are all properties of a long-term approach needed in order to impact and sustain change within and for a community. It is these properties which are required of the executive director and board members for the entire organization to instill in each other, as well as each and every stakeholder involved in the furthering of the mission and vision. It is the notion of being a beacon of change for the rest of society that makes nonprofit organization leadership so important in the study of transformational theory approach. Leaders within a nonprofit organization seeking to understand the art and science of leadership to effectively carry out a mission must be transformational in their actions, their words, their hearts, their way of thinking, and in their strategy. According to Kouzes and Posner, the 5 main practices of leadership include modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart. These are practices of transformational leadership for their long-lasting imprint of change, sustainable leadership, and they are practices that may be carried out by individuals of all traits and qualities. A functioning organization is simply theories and practices in action. Therefore, the implications of actors putting into practice certain leadership theories can either have positive or negative results. Anheuer even goes as far as to illustrate a dichotomy of leadership theory and scientific management, stating that rather than finding a one-size-fits-all leadership principle, it is more important to analyze leadership principles that reflect the situational conflicts that arise in an organization. As Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Because decision-making is one of the core responsibilities of the executive director of a nonprofit organization, situational instances will significantly alter the leadership style of the director. With regards to organizational relations, board members and executive directors will need to alter their leadership styles due to the change in organization, sets of issues, donors, staff, and volunteers. So, what are the researchers saying? Transformational leadership theory describes leaders as being the ultimate charismatic individuals who have the natural ability to communicate and lead others into the future of change. While other leadership theories, such as the contingency theory, takes the approach that leadership has nothing to do with the individual and everything to do with the situations to which individuals are thrust that make a person a leader depending on their reaction to the environment. While there are various other leadership theories applicable to nonprofit organizations, board members should be made aware of transformational leadership theory for its properties of mentorship and long-term investment in developmental growth and success. One could also make the valid argument that it is trait theory, then, that should be preached in regards to board member leadership. However, trait theory would dictate the importance of identifying an individual's ability to be a visionary and facilitate conflict resolution, ability to problem solve and to adapt, etc. However, transformational leadership theory suggests that long-term impact is needed for an entity such as nonprofit organization to carry out a mission. Individuals' traits are ever changing based on experiences, fears, morals, situations, etc. J.M. Burns introduced the transformational theory in 1978, which surrounds the leader's ability to inspire people to follow him or her in furthering a vision or mission to change things in a, quote, big way. Lugier introduces this topic in the same chapter as the charisma model is introduced, implicitly connecting transformational theory to the charisma model while dichotomizing them in a really strategic way. While the transformational theory embodies a sense of charisma on behalf of the visionary leader, it must be separated for the fact that charisma is only one aspect of the transformational theory. According to Arthur Schreiberg, transformational leadership represents a leader as being charismatic, motivational, inspirational, purposeful, and having an attitude of power to rather than power over. Robert Greenleaf, lead researcher in servant leadership, believes that servant leaders are very powerful people, but have a soft sense of power rather than a harsh power over people. As the French novelist and playwright Honoré de Balzac once said, "Power is not revealed by striking hard or often, but by striking true." It is important to analyze the transformational theory of leadership in terms of nonprofit organizations. Both the executive director as well as the board members must hold all of these qualities collectively, if not individually, in order to better fulfill the mission of the organization. J. Stephen Ott and Lisa Dickey itemize the most important qualities and responsibilities of the executive director of a nonprofit organization as planning, organizing, motivating, decision-making, delegating, coordinating, reporting, supervising, managing finances, and lastly, fundraising. According to Lugier, a leader must be able to, quote, generate excitement and energy by focusing on the future. This is no exception for a nonprofit organization which thrives on high energy donors, staff, and volunteers. However, there is more to the transformational approach to leadership than motivation and inspiration. As Shafrit states, there is a much more scientific approach to the transformational theory. Noel Tichy and David Ulrich suggest transformational leaders are a rare breed of leaders who are able to lead people through fear of the uncertain by communicating all the benefits that will come from positive change. Researchers have also compared the transformational approach to leadership very closely to that of the trait theory due to the similar notion of leaders being born, not made. However, the transformational leadership approach is much more popular and much more widely used in today's studies of behavioral leadership. To define the concept of transformational leadership, Nordhaus lists 4 factors inherent to the idea: idealized influence and charisma, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. Influence and charisma is a major aspect of transformational leadership because a leader who has the power to change lives in a meaningful way must possess certain characteristics like honesty, high morals, and ethical behavior. According to Charlotte Levay, charismatic leadership is most needed during times of uncertainty and instability, when things are changing. She states that followers will pursue leaders when they see them as having special and incomparable skills. LeVay purports that charismatic leaders take risks that will help to transform bad situations to ones that will lead to better circumstances for all stakeholders. People will trust a person in a leadership role when he or she proves commitment to the change. By taking personal risks to make things happen, they ingratiate themselves to their employees, thereby providing that they are all in it together. Furthermore, Nordhaus tells readers that charismatic leaders empower their employees and followers. When people know that their supervisors and or mentors believe in their abilities to do a job well, they will stand up to the challenge and will work to make the supervisor proud. People who possess charisma are also described as being charming. They influence people by communicating a vision of what could be, not what should be. Nordhaus describes the second factor, inspirational motivation, as when leaders appeal to the human nature of their followers. They inspire people to look at and act past their own personal needs and to look at the vision or big picture to achieve higher results than those expected. Jason Boltax believes that effective leaders will use their energy and appeal to motivate and inspire employees to follow the direction in which the department or company should move. Boltax also believes that in order to be successful in moving forward, leaders must sometimes look back and analyze the successes and failures of past leaders. The third factor listed by Nordhaus as inherent to the transformational leadership theory is intellectual stimulation. According to Nordhaus, intellectual stimulation happens when followers are encouraged and empowered to be innovative and to think differently than usual. Kaufman believes that the nature of the environment in which people exist stifles creativity. It must hold true for nonprofit organizations, because the policies and procedures that exist, while needed, may also communicate a message that they merely exist in that world, but should not fully participate in the actual building and innovation that goes into establishing processes. The fourth dimension laid out by Nordhaus is individualized consideration. He describes it as a leader's focus on the needs and wants of individuals. Cho and Dancero, I think I'm saying it right, say that transformational leaders focus on individualized attention to each member of the group. They assert that the leader guides, supports, and empowers individuals in the development of each person based on individual needs. They also say that leaders tailor their attention to each person based on that person's perception of the leader. So we have a good idea of Peter Nordhaus in particular, of his four his four leadership factors of transformational leadership theory. And of course, here you can see the factors of transactional leadership, which we kind of touch on in the very first slide, and laissez-faire leadership as well, in addition to some of the other research that is currently out there on transformational leadership theory. So, what is missing? What's missing from current research, whether it's leadership theory or scientific management, what's missing from both is each other. And that's a big deal because at the end of the day, businesses, nonprofits, regardless of which sector we're looking at the end of the day, they're all going to want to be good stewards of their resources. They're going to want to be good stewards to stakeholders. And if there are significant disparities between scientific management and leadership theory application within an organization, the beneficiaries ultimately are going to be the ones to bear the burden of those imbalances. So if there's too much leadership theory and not enough scientific management, then inefficiencies in resources could occur, such as lack of funding or staffing. However, if there's more scientific management than leadership theory, then levels of trust and compassion could significantly decrease. The transformational leadership theory is a very important study due to its in-depth analysis of motivational and inspirational techniques that leaders apply to different situations. And this is an important discussion to have for board members and leaders in nonprofit organizations due to the ever-changing environment among society that the individuals are forced to work within. And why does that all matter? Well, it's like I said earlier, what is passion without skill to mobilize and manage? In order to have an effective nonprofit organization and to carry out or fulfill a mission, you have to have that passion and that dedication and commitment, but you also have to have the skill to mobilize and manage your resources. So, what are the implications? Why does this all matter? Um, Currently, without more research on the benefits of merging scientific management and leadership theory application, nonprofits will struggle to meet the needs of communities and fail to gain the sponsorship needed to remain a provider of goods and services for little to no cost to the public. And currently, more and more communities are relying on nonprofits. More and more people are moving away from relying on government. You know what they say, a government big enough to give you everything is big enough to take it away, too. Um, Current research, particularly on leadership theory, um, throughout literature, when we're looking at literature that's out there currently, Robert Luzier takes a biased approach toward the trait theory in that he highly supports the relevancy and accuracy of such analysis, while Schaffertz and Schreiberg, they take a liking more towards, say, the contingency and transformational theories. These theories provide a more realistic approach to leadership behavior and can be applied more towards nonprofit organizations due to the constantly changing demands of society on nonprofit service provision. Um, what we need to see is more theories that advocate for a blend of science and art, balance in execution of scientific management leadership theory. Currently, I think what's closest out there, if we look at theories proposed by Watad and Ospina, I think that's how you pronounce it, they dictate that developmental training programs must enable communication between various levels of management in order to ensure transfer of training and learning for subordinates for the overall health of an organization. They basically are pinning the balance of scientific management and leadership theory in training programs, developmental training programs. They're putting it in terms of developmental training programs. And Sachs and Burke-Smalley, they claim that if training is to provide organizations with a competitive advantage and improve firm performance, trainees must first apply and transfer what they learn in training on the job. So they too are looking at training program practices and transfer of training out there. So if that's where our research is going to kind of start, and if that's where we're going to start looking at this blend of scientific management and leadership theory, then so be it. That's fine. We can start there. But it it's going to be important that we see more of those theories pop up in training and development in our field of study of human resources management, because without that, um, without that research, not just looking at a an application of both simultaneously, but also dichotomizing. We need to be able to separate as well as look at them together. Otherwise, sustainability could definitely be challenged for a lot of nonprofit organizations. So I use the word sustainability a lot because I want to end this presentation on that note. When we talk about sustainability, we're not talking about sustainability of an actual nonprofit organization. We're talking about sustainability of a community's well-being, which is the mission of a nonprofit organization. Nobody wants to depend on a source forever. That source, the goal of that source is to um, facilitate an independent community. It is simply a, a temporary host of resources. And some people would disagree, and that's okay. That's okay. But we want an independent community. We want a community to fend for itself. Um, that's important in a community, particularly in our American communities. And so, with that being said, we've discussed quite a bit today on transformational leadership, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you have enjoyed learning a little bit about the different perspectives um, in terms of leadership theory application and scientific management. I think that's something that I have noticed is missing in current research, and I hope somebody is empowered to really look at research in a different way and maybe contribute. Maybe somebody listening will be a future contributor to this type of research. That would be really interesting to see. So I would love to see any comments to this discussion and any insights that you guys may have. So I look forward to seeing more videos from you guys, and this has been a really great class. Dr. Sanchez, thank you so much for everything, for all of the great discussions and for all the great feedback that you've provided. So everybody, it was great presenting on this topic with you guys. This is something I'm very passionate about, so hope you enjoyed. Thanks.